Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hi friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of catching up with Katie Munro Powell, president of Munro Companies located in Grand Junction, Colorado. Katie is a next-generation leader who recently became president of her organization. She has this amazing perspective on how the two companies, a manufacturing entity and a traditional distributor, have taught her how to be a better partner to both her suppliers on the distribution side and her customers on the manufacturing side. I also appreciate her desire to be of service, not only to her team members, but to the world around her. I thoroughly enjoyed catching up with Katie, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. All right, Katie. Hey, welcome to Distribution Talk. So good to see you again and speak with you one more time.
You too. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, get to learn a little bit as I spent some time with you. I think it was 6 years ago, actually, that I went back and looked at my notes. So it's been a little bit of time. A few things have changed in your company. But if you wouldn't mind, give us a little history lesson. How did you get involved with the business and why do you stay?
Sure. So our business is a family business, as many of our older distribution businesses are. And our business was started in 1965 by my father and grandfather. They started out as a pump specialty house in Western Colorado and ended up serving most of the Western United States in all different kinds of pumps, anything from mining to industrial to irrigation. And I think my first job here at Munro was building electrical boxes for pumps. I think I was maybe 14, so had that opportunity to do that. So
good old child labor. Yeah, you gotta love having child labor.
That's right. Child labor laws don't apply to your own children, is what
they do not. No, I've learned that the hard way as well. So
yeah, so I've been with the business off and on really since I was young, but did not join the business full time until really just a little before you and I met. It's about 8 years ago when I came back into the business full time. And I had been away from Grand Junction for about 20 years doing a variety of different things. I worked in mostly marketing and business strategy, so had an opportunity to get a lot of different business awareness and experiences outside of the company, which I was able to bring back to the company. I think that has been really valuable for the company. But I didn't do that on purpose. So I was never actually planning to join our family business. My dad, I think because starting the business with his dad, this has been his entire career. So I think there were times in his life when he didn't feel like he really had a choice about being in this business. And he didn't ever want any of us to feel like that. So I'm the oldest of 4 girls. So all of us worked in the business at one point or another. But I think he wanted all of us to feel like we didn't have an obligation to rejoin the business. So when I decided that I was interested in joining the business, I had been actually working for the Department of Higher Education for Colorado over in Denver. And the program that I was working on was going to be deprioritized based on a change in government. And so I decided I was going to make a change in my career somehow. And I'd been talking to my dad about it. And I called him up one day and said, we've been talking about, I want to make a change. And I was thinking, like, what if I came to work for you? And he was silent. I want to say it was 2 traffic lights. Like, it was
wow. That's a long silence.
Right. I know. And so I came back and I said, it's not that I can't find a job. I mean, it's totally okay. If you don't want me,
if you don't want me,
I was just, what do you think, Right. When he came back, he was like, no, that would be amazing. Really?
Yeah.
I was like, really? And I think it was the very next day that we started working on what could this look like. And he started talking to me more about the history of the business, because when you grow up in a family business, I think people have different experiences. Sometimes you're like really in it and you really know it from an early age. Our family business, I thought I knew a fair amount about what we did, but I did not. I did not. I knew like nothing about what we
Yeah.
did actually until I really came on board and got to understand more about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Katie. I think the more I speak with next generation leaders, and they talk about that, that conversation with their parent. I think I'm gonna. It's amazing, but I think what I've come to the realization of is that almost all parents have this secret desire that their child will want to join the business, but they're not going to let them know that. They're not going to say that. They want them to almost grovel, to come and beg and come to the family. Well, will you accept me? Rather they're just, jumping for joy in the background, but they're not going to let you know that. So,
Well, he
yeah.
let me know that he was jumping for joy. So
Well,
that was
that's good. All right.
yeah, yes. From the day that I came on board, I feel like he was pushing me more and more into leadership. I I came on board and was, I think, imagining that I would kind of help with some marketing and strategy work and sort of based on my background. And I want to say from like day one, he was sort of telling people that I'll be taking over the business. So,
Right. He's grooming you.
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so
Yeah.
when did that kind of mesh with your own ambitions?
Just the more I got to know about what we do here, the more time that I spent with the team and the more time that I understood, the value that a business like ours brings to our
Mhm.
community and our customers and our employees. Yeah, I got hooked on wanting to make the business better and I feel like it's a real privilege to be able to run this business now. And I obviously have lots of very challenging days, but overall feel very grateful for the opportunity that I have to do this.
You came in with a pretty substantial marketing background. What was it like to try to integrate that with the family business that may not have been as sophisticated from a marketing standpoint? How did that go?
I think we had folks on the team that had good instincts, and we had folks on the team that had, I think, for the most part, a good sense of who the customers were and what they
Mhm.
wanted, which is such an important part of having a good marketing strategy. But we also had a lot of limiting beliefs. Just being a small company, you tend to
Mhm.
think we could never do that. We can't look like that. And so I remember there was a time when I was talking about what my vision was and how we were going to represent ourselves to the market. And I remember one of our team members saying, "Wow, you have really high expectations, don't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I do. Yep.
Kinda. Yeah, kinda.
Yeah." And part of it was I knew we could do it. I knew we had the team to do it. And I also knew that if you put your best foot out there and you put the brand out there, that it may be aspirational to start, right?
Mhm.
But it's where you're
Mhm.
going, it will help you get there. It's sort of like the old concept of dress for the job that you want to have,
Right,
right?
right.
I think that your branding and your marketing can help you do that. We were probably branding ourselves bigger than we were early on. And I think that was a really good strategy for us because I
Sure.
think it gave our customers confidence in who we are.
Yeah, I always love it when people say, "Well, how many people are on the team?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, apparently we do. Yeah, maybe I do look a little bigger on the website than I really am here." So, no, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely. One of the other challenges and nuances I think in your family business is that you actually are two separate companies that basically operate in the same space. So, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I mentioned that we started out as a pump specialty house and
Yeah.
we ran that way just as a pump specialty house actually for probably not that long, I would guess less than a decade. And
Okay.
then started to expand into other industrial goods. So we brought on hose and fittings and all of the other industrial goods that go with pumps, which anytime
Sure.
you need a pump, there are things hanging off of that pump. Also, my dad has a real passion for product development and engineering.
Hmm.
So he had worked with a number of his vendors to try to help them improve their products and given them ideas, which some of them implemented to improve their products, which is cool, except that, of course, that doesn't really give him any sort of differentiator because then that vendor is selling the same product to your competitor down the street that you helped improve, right? So they started the business in 65, and by about the mid 80s, my dad had decided that he wanted to spin off his own manufacturing company. And so that's when he started the other business, the manufacturing business, which is Munro, and started making irrigation pumps, so horizontal centrifugal lawn pumps is what we call. And he expanded that out from lawn pumps into pump controls. And we also had made pump stations as a distributor. A lot of distributors who sell pumps will make pump stations. They might make a couple a year, onesie, twosie kind of deal. We had gotten to be pretty good at making pump stations. We were a leader in pump stations for our area. And so we felt that we could take that national as well. So we, at this point, you're right, have two separate businesses that grew out of our one distribution business. So we still operate our distribution business, Munro Supply, and we service Western Colorado and Eastern Utah and have the same types of goods and services that we have had from the beginning. So pumps, hose, valves, fittings, other industrial goods that support that, and then also pump service and repair. And then Munro is our second company, and that is a manufacturing business. And Munro sells nationwide and throughout Canada into distribution, primarily irrigation wholesalers, and is really focused on irrigation. So we actually have two very distinct audiences. So on the manufacturing side, our customer profile is irrigation wholesalers. Also irrigation specifiers so that we can get our project or our products on plans. And we talk to irrigation contractors as well, but we don't sell them anything.
Right.
And then on the distribution business, so over at Munro Supply, we're selling to everyone from a consumer, a homeowner, all the way to, a mine or a oil and gas company or a service company or city, any variety of companies. And we service just a really wide variety of industries at Munro Supply. And part of that is driven by our geographic location. So we're out in Western Colorado where it's fairly sparsely populated.
Right.
We're up to 120,000 people in our valley. Grand Junction is the only town really of any size between Denver and Salt Lake City. We, by the nature of where we are, have to be fairly diverse in order to have a viable business, right?
Right. Yeah, to eke out a living. I mean,
That's right. Oh, yeah, if we were in a big city, service just one industry and have all the business we knew what to do with. But that's not where we are. But, it's really interesting to run both of these businesses because, as you said, they do support each other. So Munro is a vendor for Munro Supply. Munro sells products to Munro Supply. Munro has a couple of other distributors here in Grand Junction as well that Munro Supply competes with. So that's sort of interesting. But I think that one of the things that actually strengthens both our businesses is that running these two businesses that support each other, it gives me a different perspective of, like, from the Munro Supply side of my vendors and how they operate.
Definitely. Yeah.
And as Munro, as the manufacturer, it gives me a different perspective of my customers because I'm operating a distributor. And I think it's really helpful as a manufacturer because as a distributor, probably lots of distributors feel like manufacturers sometimes undervalue us and undervalue our role in the supply chain, right? Is that fair?
That is a fair statement. Yes.
That is a fair statement.
Katie, that is a very fair statement.
So as a manufacturer who also runs a distributor, I feel like that makes me a much better partner for a lot of other distributors because I really value the role of distribution in the supply chain. I really understand what distributors grapple with every day. And when I talk to them, I think that they feel more valued. And I also think that they feel like we get it, right? We get it. We get how quickly they need to have their products for their customers. We
Right.
get what it feels like if we try to go talk to their customers without them, right?
Right.
Which we do not like that as distributors, but
No,
lots
as distributors, that's heresy. I mean, that's yeah.
right. So I think when we go out to partner with distributors, it actually feels like a partnership. Whereas as a distributor, when some of our manufacturers talk about wanting to be our partners, we don't really feel that.
Yeah, you don't feel as loved. No, definitely not. My friend or my actually now my business associate, he always says, if you really want to be my partner, why don't you sign on my loans? If you really want to get in there, yeah,
Right.
why don't you
Right.
step up to the plate, kid? Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, kid, because often, and this is really no disparaging comment to the manufacturers who call on distribution, but sometimes they're a salaried employee or something, and they don't have that understanding of what that distributor is really asking them to do, or they don't understand that distributors take risks and those risks need to be supported. It's not as easy as, hey, we just open these doors and all these people come in, they say, I want that. And it doesn't work that way. So yeah, I think, no, you've got a great point that having that manufacturing company, it really does give you a different perspective and a better perspective. And frankly, yeah, I would suspect that you are very successful. In fact, if I recall correctly, that the manufacturing business is growing pretty substantially. I mean, and I think it's definitely supported by that idea that you understand distribution probably better than the next person out there.
Yeah, I think so. I think as we've grown, one of the ways that we've been able to do that, one of the ways that we've been able to partner with our customers, with the distributors, is just by understanding that distributors sell such a wide variety of things. And
Hmm.
when you bring in a product like a pump to an irrigation wholesaler, and they're also trying to talk to their customers about, emitters and irrigation clocks and maybe fertilizers and hardscapes, and then you throw in this pump. Geez, like you need support, right? It
Right.
also, though, I think when I have my distributor hat on, it helps me to talk to my manufacturing partners in a different way because I
Hmm.
also understand what they're after, right? They want
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
products sold. They don't care about all of the other products that I have to
Right.
sell. And so if I can work with them and tell them what I need a little bit better, right? So I think at Munro Supply, we've been really successful in reaching out to some of our vendors and asking them for training, for example.
Hmm. Hmm.
Manufacturers tend to be really interested in giving training, but we also we're very specific in what we want in terms of training because we also find, and I think this is a good tip for the manufacturers out there, but we find that when we ask for training, manufacturers want to come and give us their sales pitch on their product du jour. And that is cool. Like we totally do want to know about your new products, right? But we also we want to know how to sell more of the regular stuff that you have or of the stuff that we already sell or even if you are telling us about your new product, we need to know how to sell that thing,
Right.
not just what the cool bells and whistles are. So
Right. Who the market is, what the application is, what somebody's going to sell with this, the ideal customer for this, et cetera. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. You definitely have the ability to adjust your expectations. No, that's good. So, if I could, shift a little bit here, if we could talk a little bit about some of the changes that have occurred in your business, especially on the supply side. You and I have talked in the past a little bit about some of the changes that were occurring, especially in the geographic region that you serve and the customer base that you serve. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about, what's happened here in the last, 3 to 4 years? Is that about right? Is that probably fair?
yeah, that's probably fair. So, this is something that's happened in different ways throughout the country, but in Colorado, we've seen huge changes to the landscape in energy development, specifically oil and gas and coal. And those have been brought on by a variety of factors. So coal, really a lot of the reason that coal is not mined as much in our area anymore is because natural gas is a more efficient, less expensive way to provide power, right? So
Hmm.
natural gas has replaced coal in a lot of places. But also the legislative landscape making it harder to mine coal has not helped things. At this point, I really don't have a lot of confidence that coal will come back to our area in a meaningful way, which is, I think, unfortunate in some ways. I do understand the value in looking at cleaner sources of energy, but I also think that we are smart to look at the energy sources that we have available to us locally and that we have available to us domestically. On the oil and gas side, we are sitting on the one of the largest natural gas plays in the world here in the Piceance Basin. And this is where actually a lot of the fracking technology was developed. And we were right there next to those producers as they were developing that technology. So we got very good at helping them with the products that they needed, the hoses, the valves, the things that they needed for those frac sites. The Piceance is not, however, a very inexpensive place to produce natural gas. And on top of that, natural gas, the price of natural gas is just so low right now, a byproduct also of oil production in a lot of cases. And so there just really isn't any natural gas production to speak of in our area right now. So our business was 4 to 5 years ago, about half of our sales came from natural gas and coal. And I've just spent a couple of minutes explaining to you that those industries are basically gone for us, locally anyway. And so that has been a real challenge for our distribution business to figure out what that looks like. We've done a lot of right sizing, which is, very painful, especially for small family businesses. And we've also tried very diligently to look for other markets. And what we found is that those other markets have to be served in a very different way. We were good at coal. We were good at natural gas. We knew what they needed and we had it on our shelf. And there was a time, anybody who was in oil and gas back in those years will probably recognize that if you had it on your shelf, you were going to sell it. There just was such heavy demand for the products, especially the hoses and valves and fittings, that we didn't have to work terribly hard once we had those relationships to get those sales. So having been in this region since 1965, we know almost all of the companies that would use our goods, right? And we are known. We don't have a brand awareness problem. Everyone knows Munro Supply in our area. Right. But we do, I think, have a brand understanding problem because they think of us for pumps and primarily for irrigation pumps. They don't necessarily think of us for industrial goods. They don't necessarily think of us for hoses, especially hydraulic hoses. We have a big hydraulic hose sign in our shop that has been up there for at least 20 years. And we still will have customers come up to the counter and they'll be like, "You guys don't do hydraulic hose, do you? You don't know where I could get any of that." There's our hydraulic hose area. So, and it's interesting. I think that can happen to a company when you're really well known in a certain area. You're not always thought of in other markets. So now our sales team has this new challenge within the last couple of years, challenge of going out and talking to customers who know us, but don't really know everything that we do, and helping them understand all of the ways that we can service them. And also thinking about how can we do it in a different way so that we can really add value for them. And that's, I think, something that distributors in general are grappling with right now, right? How do we do things in a different way to continue to have value for our customers?
How do you reinvent yourself? Yeah. I mean, when you were talking about, that you've been known for this certain thing, it just all of a sudden popped in my head. It's like a character actor, an actor that gets stuck in this role and they can't break out of that particular role. And this is kind of where you're struggling right now, is that you are so known for this particular area. Yet if you really looked at the inventory that you all keep and all of the different product groups that you are invested in, that there are many different industries that you could serve and many different customer types that you could go tap. But again, it's now a recognition problem. It's like, oh, well, no, Munro does this. They can't, no, they're not good at this. No, and so I think, honestly, this is kind of where your branding hat is going to have to, your marketing background is going to have to step back out. You're going to have to dust off the old marketing shoes and figure out, what do these new niches or profiles look like, and where are you going to be able to serve? And it's, as you said, it's not something that just you're grappling with. This is something that I see in so many different distributors, especially industrial related. They tend to have made their name in one area, and all of a sudden that area is dried up, or the landscape has changed politically or economically for one reason or another, and you better pivot quick. Fortunately, you do have the manufacturing side to keep you buoyed up while you're reinventing yourself or you're rediscovering yourself. But it's definitely a challenge. I mean, this is like, man, I got to do this again. I got to reinvent this again. Come on.
Yep. And I think as you go out and do that, the other thing that you find is it's not only making the customers aware that you have these things, but it's providing some sort of value that they're not currently getting, right? Because why would they switch? I mean, so now you're not the leader in what you do who they come to first. You're this maybe new guy on the block who's been here since 1965 coming in to ask for their business. And they're sort of like, why? And also, I actually have a new vendor that I'm looking at. It's this online website that I can just get my stuff from, and it's really easy. So now we've got, I think, a number of things that we're challenged with. And again, you're exactly right, not unique to us. This is a common issue for distributors right now. And that's, how do we create value and really be very conscious of who we're choosing to serve, right?
Yeah.
So who is that we can create this value for, because it's not everyone. And how can we just do a really great job for them so that they're willing to pay us for it? There are certainly circumstances where they can find things less expensively online. Why would they pay us for that if they can find it less expensively online? There has to be some value to them, right? And that's where some of the services, I think, that distributors have always offered come into play, that expertise that distributors have. That's one of the services that distributors can provide, and especially in product categories like pumps and hoses that have a lot of different, there are so many different configurations of pumps and hoses. And so having a product specialist who can help with that is great. But is that enough? Right. And that's also expensive to have those guys who have those expertise in there. So then you look at how do we service them in a different way. And you and I have talked a little bit about vendor managed inventory programs and how we use those to service our customers in a better way and in a way that's potentially less expensive for us as distributors as well. So that is something that we have stretched into in the last couple of years and found some success in. And some of our customers that we approached with that idea had not ever had that type of service from a distributor. And they found it just very exciting, right? That we were able to reduce their downtime, reduce the amount of time that their shop guys were spending coming over to Munro Supply. Now, outside, on occasion, those shop guys, I think, enjoyed that little outing. So sometimes they were, but the
so maybe you can bring them treats or something, to offset the lack of drive time.
Right. But the shop manager really appreciated that reduction in downtime. But some of our customers already had vendor managed inventory programs with another distributor. And so then we had to go in and say, why would you switch to us? Right.
Yeah.
And that's where some of those longstanding relationships come into play. They might not ever have bought any of those things from us that we're going to put into their bins, but they bought something else and they know about our service and they know about how much we care about our customers and what we can do for them. And so they're willing to take a chance on making that switch. So that has been effective, but it's a challenge. I think, distributors have to think differently right now and have to integrate their business models.
Katie, as I think about this and I'm listening, I'm thinking, okay, well, you all were the big dog here, for the longest time in these specific areas, but there has to be a part of you that relishes the idea of being the underdog again and really getting to put on your thinking cap and, look for those little wins because you're not going to knock it out of the park every time. There's going to be these little wins. So that underdog position can actually bring you back to, wow, this is kind of fun to compete again. I'm not the biggest, baddest kid on the block anymore. So
Yeah,
you might look at it that different way to look at it.
a great point. It's fun, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
winning is fun.
Yeah, winning is fun.
It's more
Yeah.
fun when you are winning, but you're right. It is a new challenge to look at it
Yeah.
that way. And I think all of that it can still be really fun, especially if you have a great team with you doing it, which we do have a great team. Is something that we've been really conscious about building. But yeah, no, I like looking at it that way. Thank
Well,
you.
one of the different ways to look, but also, Kate, if I look at you and, other next generation leaders I've met, is that they didn't get in the business just to kind of maintain it, to be the caretaker of this business and to, kind of milk the rewards, on this thing. And I'm sure there's several of those people. I just don't interview them. But the ones though that I speak to, they're ones that want to do something a little different. They kind of do want to have some fun with it. And having fun doesn't always mean you win. Having fun means that you get to try some different stuff out and you're going to get kicked in the teeth a couple times. It's just not going to work out well. But I think that's the interest in coming back into your family business for many, and I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but I have met you. I met you a long time ago, and I could sense that you did want to do something different with that company and try something different.
Yeah, that it reminds me of something that me and that our team talks about sometimes, and that's this idea of like getting curious. So
Yeah.
whenever we kind of are approached with something that is a real challenge, and maybe we get a little frustrated with it, we'll say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's get curious on this, right? Let's be like little scientists on it and see if we can try some things and see what works. And if it works, let's go a little deeper on it. And if it doesn't work, let's pivot and try something different. But yeah, getting curious, I think is just a great stance in business in general, because it's a great stance. It's a great stance with people and how you communicate with people. You might be with a customer that's really giving you a stonewall, right? So let's get curious with that customer and figure out,
Interesting. Yeah.
why is he reacting that way, right? Have we done something wrong in the past? Does he just not want to talk to us? But you're exactly right. Yeah, getting curious it is fun.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Yeah. It's interesting. Speaking of the getting curious with people, you and I have spoken about that you get involved with associations, boards, communities of people, those types of organizations. Why do you do that? Why do you add more stress to or more challenge to your life? I'll put it this way. It sounds like you've already got a lot. So why do you continue to do this, or why do you serve on these boards and get involved?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you are right. I do tend to add to my plate. In addition to running our two businesses, I have a rich family life with two little girls at home and soccer and school, and I'm a Girl Scout troop leader and all of that. And then I serve on a couple of boards, and I am active in a number of associations. And I have done all of that intentionally because I believe that the world is run by the people who show up. And if I want to have an impact, I need to show up. There are a number of things that I think could be better, either maybe in our field, maybe in my town. And instead of just sitting on the sidelines and complaining, I show up. And I enjoy showing up to contribute, and I enjoy showing up to learn. And I enjoy showing up to create relationships and network, because I am not your traditional networker, kind of the, cocktail party exchange business card.
You're not the schmoozer.
I'm not great at that, but I am good at getting things accomplished. And I think I'm a good contributor. And so if I can get involved with an association or an organization around something that I care about, and I think that is a good way for me to create relationships, because I can add value. And I've really enjoyed doing that. I've done that in other industries that I've worked in as well, and found that to be also a great way to further business, right? Because you're creating these relationships with people where you're working on something together that you both care about. And then you find things, that you can do together. So you might find business opportunities, or You might find someone that knows someone that you'd like to know. And the other thing about it is that you learn more, I think, about the challenges of the industry that way,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
different way, right, than just selling into the industry. Associations tend to gather a lot of different parts of a supply chain, for
Hmm.
example, or different players, and those people all have different points of view. And I think this came back from my comment about getting curious. And you're right, it's a
Yeah.
great place to get curious also and just learn more about all of these different types of audiences, types of people who are coming together and understand what matters to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it can make you better in business and also just a better partner because if you understand what your partner cares about and what they need, you can help them in a clearer way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, and you touched on not being in love with the traditional cocktail party or that, that forced networking situation or those types of, I don't know, speed dating situations, that you get or that small talk situation you get thrown into. And I think that many people feel like because they don't enjoy that, that's not part of who they are, that they feel limited in their ability to network and to become a part of those associations or part of an industry. And I think it's very important to share with people that no, there are other ways, and there are a lot of better. I'm not going to say better for me as well. I'll be honest with you. I'm not. I told you I'm not a lover of the cocktail parties either. They annoy me to no end. But yes, getting involved with that association or being involved in a project or whatever it is, basically just raising your hand when somebody asks. You raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I'm in." Yeah, I'll be a part of it. And that's how you get to be part of the middle. And those who survive are in the middle of the pack. Those who perish linger around the outside and they get, taken down by the lion. So yeah, I think that's a great no, it's a great point for people, especially those, who might have more of an introverted personality that, there are a lot of different ways to serve and there's a lot of different ways to get involved.
Yeah, and associations are always looking for that. So volunteering is pretty easy. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always
Yeah.
something to do to help. Yeah.
Yeah, all you gotta do is say, hey, are there any opportunities for me to be on a oh yeah, then it's like, oh yeah, we got you now. You're coming
Yeah.
in. So
You have to be careful not to go to the bathroom because if you go to the
yeah,
bathroom, there's some sort of chair and seat or something like that.
yes, you're elected president all of a sudden, and then you're yes, nights and weekends have just left the building. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, Katie, hey, I truly appreciate you sharing your little time with me and sharing some of your thoughts about not only the family business but the leadership side as well. So, if there's any piece of advice, could you give any piece of advice for someone that maybe is entering into a family business or entering into their own family business? Yeah, what might you tell them to do?
One of the things that I did when I very first came on board, and this was actually something that my dad suggested, I went around to, at the time, every single person on the team and I interviewed them. I sat with them for a little bit and I got to know about what matters to them, what's hard for them. And I think it was one of the more impactful things that I did early on. I
Mhm.
learned a ton. I think actually our leadership team at the time learned some things. And I feel like it helped to gain trust early on. And I was able to take some action on some of the things that we learned as well. I
Mhm.
think actually that may have been one of the things that triggered inviting you in when we invited you in, that we learned that some of our team members just didn't really understand some of the most important aspects of how our business operates.
Mhm.
And so we needed to help them understand better so they could contribute more, right? But I think the advice is, wherever you're coming in to a new place, look for opportunities to get curious, to ask questions, to be a learner, maybe even before you're a contributor. Because even though I do feel like I came into the business with some things that, some of the folks that have been here a long time maybe didn't know some of the things that I knew, but they knew a whole lot more than I did about other aspects, right? And that's almost always the case when you come in somewhere new. Coming into a family business, There are sometimes preconceived notions from the employees, from the team members about what you're going to be like and what you're going to do. And I think by taking some time early on and just sitting with folks and learning from them, I think you can do a lot to lay groundwork to build relationships as you grow in the business.
Well, absolutely. No, it makes a whole lot of sense, Katie. Well, again, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time with me. And, I look forward to the next time our paths cross.
So do I. I always enjoy spending time with you.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.